Here from howtodrawcomics.net, and welcome to another live stream. Today we are going to be talking with Adam Post about his latest comic book project, College of the Dead, Graduation Day. So Adam will be joining us soon. He's little bit held up with something. I'm not sure quite how long he's going to be, but let's just take a look at his campaign here for a second and how well it's been doing on Indiegogo. You can see that he's actually raised $19,000 AUD. Okay, so that's in Australian dollars, which would roughly be about probably within the ballpark of 10 grand USD. I'll have to confirm that with Adam when he jumps on, but that's just amazing considering the fact that he's only halfway through the first month of his campaign, I believe. For those who don't know, and we will get Adam to expand on this when he joins us, this comic book is all about zombies, right? So it's a little bit of a niche horror story, but the general synopsis is this is where college costs you an arm and a leg, right? And it's a all new, full color comic, 48 pages, which ships in June 2020. So Adam's here now. Hey, Adam, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. I just do a little bit of an introduction here and tell the good people about your wonderful zombie apocalyptic comic book.
Well, I heard you telling people the absolute truth. This is where college really costs you an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
Zombie college, pretty much. Zombie college.
Zombie college.
This is a story, in a very much as you would think it would be zombie apocalypse world based on a college campus. You get to meet individual students and professors. They are, going along with their normal life, and then all of a sudden, zombie apocalypse hits, and that's what we see in book one. And then book one we released in October 2019. It was shipped on time as promised throughout the world, which I love doing. I'm big on making comics and making sure they're done first and done in advance so we can ship them on time. And that book, which is also, that's the prequel, that's also available in this campaign, that set us up with the story. We got to kind of know who was who. This zombie world is the world that you see like in the Night of the Living Dead, in The Walking Dead. It's the zombie world that doesn't change. There isn't like crazy magic and superheroes and things like that. Those things are all great. But for this world, we just wanted a zombie apocalypse. I consider it like a war situation. Then we wanted to see how human beings react and deal with each other and living within that environment.
Yeah, cool. So is the book kind of, is it a serious, dramatic book? Is there a little bit of comedy kind of mixed in there? Kind of Shaun of the Dead style, I guess?
Not as far as Shaun of the Dead. You do get some people that make some quips that are just sort of coping things like with their personality. Like I'm the kind of person that even in a disaster or a crazy situation, I'll say like, well, at least grandma's not around to see this. That's good. Or, it could have been worse, could have been raining, that kind of thing. There are a couple of funny moments that, balance the tension well. Our main character, Brendan, who leads off book two, who we met in book one, has kind of a funny, quippy kind of attitude. He finds a lot of fun in some of the things he's doing, but he's also a very serious guy. And the way I don't know if you got to show the trailer yet, but the way that the book starts off, you see Brendan drinking at a party. This is before the zombie apocalypse took place. And he meets a beautiful girl, and they're both been drinking. They start fooling around a little bit. And then she runs off before he even knows what her name is. And he's kind of like, doesn't understand why she's running away. She's running away because she got kind of overwhelmed by the moment the two of them were having together. That's actually happening in that first page.
Yeah.
He goes after her, and then he kind of runs into the zombie apocalypse. So they get separated from that point. Doesn't even really know her name, doesn't know her at all, but he's kind of trying to find her and get back to her through all of the story, and to kind of talk to her and kind of set things right with her if he can. But in the meantime, they're fighting off zombies, and the whole world is going to hell.
Yeah, so it's kind of like two stories in one, in a sense. You've got his story
Several.
with the girl, and then the
Yeah,
zombie apocalypse happening around them.
a lot of dynamics going in between. There's another beautiful young woman who's sort of a little bit jealous of him, going after this girl. Her name is Haley. The characterization is really excellent. I was involved in the story and the writing, but the full script and really all the detail of it was done by Stefan Petruka, who also wrote the first book. And I love working with great people. People that are really passionate about their craft and really strong and skilled.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. Well, tell us, how did you come up with the idea of a zombie comic in the first place, and what made you want to do one? Are you
Sure.
just a general fan of the niche, or
Well, yeah, I'm a fan of the niche. I mean, I've published more than 1,000 comic books
wow, I
over the
didn't know
years.
that. We'll
Yeah,
have to talk
yeah.
about that.
You've got to listen to more of my videos. Secrets of the Comicsgate Network, my friend.
There you go.
AdamPostSpeaks.com. I introduced myself. I didn't do it on some of the earlier ones, but I want people to know that. Okay, so what is the Secrets of Comicsgate Network? Well, my YouTube channel is at AdamPostSpeaks.com,
Mhm.
and I talk about Comicsgate, which is an independent group, a network of independent publishers, and we help each other do everything from sourcing printing to promoting each other. And we just kind of all have the same belief system of wanting to coordinate with each other, help each other, and produce great comics. No political agenda, just great comics, great customer service, so that we all can rely on a hashtag Comicsgate as a way to let customers know and potential customers know that we respect them, we want their business, and we'll treat them right. And also to welcome in other creative people. We love
Yep.
adding other creative people into the team as long as this is the same kind of thing that they want. We love meeting Rob, who publishes the Replicator. I know you guys have been on several times. Top-notch
Oh yeah.
guy, top quality work, great talent. So Rob has made a great contribution to
Yeah.
what we're doing in multiple ways.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
why zombies? So I've published a lot of different genres. I become interested, like there are certain genres I am very interested in superheroes. I'm interested in fantasy. Zombies, we've never really done zombie comics before. I say we because like people that I work with, we put these things together with. I've done vampires and sexy vampires and science fiction series, other color comics. I did a comic book universe of science fiction characters called Triumphant Universe in the 1990s, 94. We did about 50 of those color comics. So a lot of different kind of things. But zombies, I thought it's a very interesting niche. I like the idea of being able to relate to the characters and have very human characters, but across set in this kind of war zone type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you see like the personal drama, but then there's also the survival drama. So you're constantly kind of going up and down the Maslow pyramid, so to speak, up and down like social issues in between characters, like friendships and loves and hates and jealousies and things like that. But then all that kind of gets put aside when it's a life or death situation.
Totally, man. And I think that's so cool because it's kind of relevant right now when you think about it. And I like that the whole concept of story where you're able to put everyday people in a not so everyday situation and see how they react and respond to that. Because I like it because you get to see the true nature of people in a sense. Everything becomes very honest all of a sudden.
Well,
And
for sure, but you know what? Priorities are different. And I mentioned the Maslow pyramid earlier, just like it's a reference from psychology, and it just talks about like all human beings, function at different levels depending on their level of satisfaction and comfort meeting their needs. Their first needs being survival, life or death, shelter, food, water, clothing. Past that, once those needs are satisfied, people have a need to socialize with each other on some basic level. And then past that, there's things like enlightenment. It's fascinating for anybody not familiar with it, just Google like MASLOW. It was Abraham Maslow developed this theory of the hierarchy of needs. Yeah, just fascinating stuff. But that said, yeah, you really get to see the range of things, characters. The characters are really the people are really well written, and you really get a sense that they're people in the comic, because they do things that are just like idiosyncratic, occasionally over the top, but still very real.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that's what allows you to connect with the story, right? And all of a sudden, you're imagining yourself in this crazy situation with zombies running around everywhere, and I'm sure that's been very much the case for you as you've put together this story. You're kind of imagining what it'd be like yourself to.
It's incredibly immersive the way it's written. You get a sense almost immediately that you're in a zombie movie, and then right after that, you're just kind of riveted to the events as they go on. In fact, it would be a good lead-in to play the trailer for anyone to kind of just see, because that's like it's like a TV show. I'm so impressed with how that came together. That was by a guy named Ted Zagaro, who's part of one of the Comicsgate guys, and he does these trailers. I don't know if you. Oh, did you figure out how to get the audio on?
No, unfortunately, I didn't.
That's okay. You know what? This is good for everybody to see. Is that utilizing StreamYard is relatively easy. Well, you could just show it without the audio. It's not the.
Oh, would you like me to just play it now, or shall we try to fix his audio?
We could try to fix the audio. I'll tell you how to do it. You'll be surprised how easy it is.
Okay, let's do it then.
Guys, this is like diffusing a bomb when you see that in the movies. The guys
over the tutorial.
Yeah, it's really easy. It's really easy. So here's what you do. Go to StreamYard.
Yep.
Your control. Go to stop sharing screen.
Okay. Let's stop sharing screen.
So that'll close out my screen. Perfect. Look at that handsome guy. That's me.
Cool. That is you.
Now do it one step at a time. Go to share screen.
Yep.
And a white box will pop up.
So we'll stop sharing screen. Share screen. Yep. White box.
All right. Now in the bottom, there's two special things you have to hit, and it's not what you think they are. One of them is the checkbox for share audio in the bottom left-hand corner. You have to click that.
Oh, I don't have that. Oh, wait. Hang on a second. Some screens let you share audio. Look for the share audio checkbox in the next window. Okay.
All right. So you want the share audio checkbox.
Yep. I found it.
Now wait. Now on the right-hand side, don't select the application window. You select Chrome tab. This is almost like your internet history that nobody should really see.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I know.
Word is out on you, Clayton Barton.
What's that?
Any friend of Rob's, the word is out on you. Do not look at the Clayton Barton internet history. A lot of boring stuff on there. Libraries, art history, things like that. Anyway, do you see if you see the one that says College of the Dead?
I do.
Select that, and you will be shocked what happens when you press play.
All right. Well, now's the moment of truth. Let's see what happens here. Can you hear it?
Perfection.
Beautiful.
Hit the full screen if you could.
Let's do it.
You'll see how immersive this is.
I feel like I'm there.
You are there.
Nice. That's great, Adam.
Ted did an amazing job on that. But that's our story. That's what happens in the story. It's actually what happens. It's damn cool.
What a brilliant trailer. So who did that for you again?
His name is Ted, T-E-D, Zagaro. Yeah, Z-A-G-A-R-O. He's a Comicsgate guy. He does professional video editing. He's done music video editing. He does commercials and things. He just loves comics, so he does them inexpensively for Comicsgate projects that he feels good about the creator. So I mean, he'll work with just about anybody, but if he thought the project wasn't a good project, he wouldn't do it. He charges a flat rate of $250, which
Seems
is very,
reasonable to me.
yeah. I mean, I love to be able to present my work properly.
Mm.
I know you do the How to Draw Comics channel, and I'm very interested in what you're telling young creators that want to learn how to draw. I'm like, we could spend 2 hours just on that. But
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure one of the things that you tell people is, look, it's important how you present yourself and your work.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
you don't want someone to have to figure out what to make of you. You want to show them an opportunity when you show them your work.
Big time.
Senor. Ted also did my graphics. It was like $50. It was very inexpensive. He designed all the listings for the campaign.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, isn't that a great design? I mean, it's just so nicely presented.
It is great. I love it. I love the how it's kind of a diffused gray in the background, and then you've got the main products there. It contrasts beautifully.
Now we should say it in out of respect to Von Klaus, we did borrow Von's basic design idea of a black and white background like that, and then your images that way. So for people to see Monster MD, that's kind of where we borrowed that from. But you borrow a little bit from everybody, and you put together a great package that works for you. So we did 3 covers. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah, and, this is the first one.
Yeah, that's the first one, the graduation day cap and gown cover, and that's sort of like the basic general cover.
Aren't they gorgeous?
They're fantastic. I mean, Javier did an amazing job. Javier Aranda is the artist. He did the art on the interior and the covers. And I love the guy. He's a great guy to work with. And I'm going to keep working with him, forever. He just really puts his heart, he puts everything into his work. And he's a good communicator too.
That's so important. Like, not a lot of people say that, but or talk about it. But communication when you're working with other people, artists, writers, creators, it's just so key. If you're bad at communication, it can really sink the whole project and delay it massively.
You can get so much more out of it, whether you're the guy who's doing the work. So if you're doing the work, you'll do less work for more money if you're a good communicator. You reduce the friction in the relationship. So what do I mean by good communication? What I mean by good communication is I tell Javier what I'm looking for. I say, hey, I want a beautiful girl surrounded by zombies being attacked. And I want her to be, freaking out when she's being attacked. Like this one is not being attacked. That one's surrounded with a girl holding a torch.
Yeah.
And I want zombies surrounding her. So to get my approval, I would tell him that either verbally or usually in an email. And then he would respond back with a very, very rough image. In fact, we're doing a making of book now that's not part of the campaign yet. That's going to show multiple stages of the roughs, which I love doing. I love showing that behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, people love that too. Like they like to see how things are done because it makes them feel as though they were a part of the process somehow.
Well, they certainly are. I mean, they're the ones who are paying to make this thing a reality. But they get to see what's behind the stages. There's so much information when you can see work in progress as it goes. So what Javier did is a real rough stick figure of this. I can approve that, ask him to make any minor changes, discussions of what she's wearing and things like that. And if it's me and Javier, it's usually two or three iterations of, can you make her boobs bigger? For whatever reason, he's from Spain. They don't make them big.
Rob is the same. He's always asking me to make boobs bigger.
Well, yeah, we're selling to the U.S. market, and we get paid by the pound almost. So
that's right.
You need a zombie handful or something, whatever it is. You just has to look right. And then we're trying to think of what the customer wants to see, what's going to make them interested.
Oh, look, that stuff's always going to sell to a general audience. I mean, there'll be some people out there that don't really like it or are turned off by it, but for the most part, I think it's safe to say sex does sell. That's why they use it so often.
It does. It's fun, and to be able to throw it into a project, especially if it's not inappropriate for the project. Why the heck not? And that's also why would you not do a zombie story? That's really why I said to myself, this would be an amazing series, and it could have any kind of future potential. Why not do college students and a couple of professors on a college campus dealing with a zombie apocalypse. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Why has that not been done before? I have no idea. Like even The Walking Dead, like there are these people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and like just even very few young people.
Yep.
But like,
Totally.
do you think young people would be the market for something like this?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they've always done with superheroes. You know, they'll take a young guy like Peter Parker and put him in a superhero outfit and
sell it
all
to
the young.
teenagers. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
And wannabe teenagers. And then they assume people would stop reading them when they got into their 20s, and some people do and some people don't. But yeah, you want a target market, you want a product, you want those people who look like the people who are reading it. You know, I would
Well, I'm
think.
not Yep. Go on.
No, I'm just saying, you know, that was what my thinking was. So I sought out Stefan to help me develop it. And then we developed this into just what's turned out to be a great series. And I know you have experience with storyboarding. Is that right?
A little bit of storyboarding,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
So we didn't do storyboards, but we did rough layouts based on the scripts. But I developed this to be in 6-panel pages because I wanted to kind of constrain the storytelling, which it constrains the dynamic aspect of the art at times, but it really focuses you on story. And you know, I've kind of gone back and forth because obviously it's a visual medium. You want it to be very dynamic medium, but you can get so much story in, and you can pace it a certain way by having these panels kind of read this way. You've done a lot of storytelling. I mean, if not in storyboards, you've done it in in all your work, I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, I've just finished drafting up about 45 pages for my comic, actually. Very rough, but the layout.
Pages.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, that's what comic books are. First and foremost is telling a story. So when you made the decision to lay them out in this neat 6-panel grid, were you of the mind that people would just find that easier to read through from one panel to the next?
I thought there would be more engagement that way. I thought it would be very easy to follow and the story would flow. And it really it does become very, very fluid. You don't even notice panel borders anymore as you're going through the story.
Yeah.
And part of that is just because also Stefan has written for comic strips before, not just comic books, but literally comic strips. He worked for Disney doing that, and a couple of other things. He's just has so much experience. So he was familiar with capturing moments in, you know, a frame that way. And it's very good. It's not decompressed, but it doesn't move too fast either. Like you accomplish a lot of stuff in the story, the way it's executed.
Yeah, it's all very, very even, the pacing. And a lot of the time when it comes to laying out a comic book, those panels can be composed in a way to speed up the story at certain points, or, you know, slow it down. It'll be interesting to read this. I haven't read a comic book with a 6-panel grid like this in a while. So I'm interested to see what kind of immersion I'm going to experience when I read it, and how that contrasts with something, you know, like Cyberfrog, for example, which is, you know, very, you know, 90s and a bit more over the place in comparison.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is you can do a lot with dynamic panels, and you can get a tremendous impact with the reader. But you have to also you have to actively look at when you're telling a story in comics, in any medium, in movies, and in TV, you want suspension of disbelief. So you want people to understand their surroundings, and you want deep engagement and really total immersion in a story if you can get it, so you can lead the reader along and really give them a rich experience, you know, while they're reading it. You can't do that when you have a 2-page spread and you have, you know, explosions and panels that look like they're being blown up or something like that, which is actually a very cool idea. We should write that one down. That's more appropriate
it is actually.
Yeah, Jack, steal it, take it. Great artist, steal. Picasso taught us that one.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna try to remember that. I probably forget it, but that would be perfect for what we're doing for another. Our GI Joe meets the Ninja Turtles book, G.I.
Yeah.
Jackrabbits. But anyway, yeah, but for this, because I've been thinking of for book 3, I've been telling people, look, we're going to do book 3. I'm going to kind of open up the layout. And I'm like, nah, it's coming together so well because I have all the lettering. We're doing the final book design on this so we can get the test prints done, which I should be able to show in just a couple of weeks. And it just flows too damn well. So, yeah,
Okay.
I can't give up the format now. It's just too good.
What was the format of your previous books? You said you've worked on quite a few. Have they all been?
Oh my God, we've done everything. I mean, I've done everything from dynamic panels to prose and art. Literally just text with art insets in it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we've done every possible thing. We've worked with old timers who, like I had John Tartaglione work for me, who did the Pope for Marvel Comics when we were doing biography comics. He did Babe Ruth for me, and Joe DiMaggio and Nolan Ryan and Hank Aaron, biography comics. I had Joe Sinnott actually ink some of his work for me, which was fantastic. Joe Sinnott's like a super classic Marvel 60s inker. To think that he contributed anything to something that we did is just like miraculous. Yeah, what a privilege. But some of the best known stuff that we did was this book called Chromium Man, which ran about a dozen. Yeah, ran about a dozen issues. He's sort of like Colossus, science fiction character who can turn his skin to metal, and that was done by Adam Polina. And that was in 1994. That actually, Ethan has said that he used to have that on his art table, and he would refer to Adam Polina's Chromium Man books that he did for us when he was drawing Cyberfrog and designing Cyberfrog. Because Adam had a really quirky, high-energy style. He wound up working later for Marvel after us, and then and sort of DC for a stint, and then back to Valiant. It was interesting, but if you're curious, if you're curious to see it, you could go into Google and look up Chromium Man, and you'll see, I'm sure, the cover of one, which is very dynamic. Maybe some of the interiors there as well.
Let's see that now. I'd like to see that.
You're an artist. You like art stuff.
I really do, actually, and I'm curious to see some of the stuff you've worked on as well.
Get on my YouTube channel later and check out one of my first videos I uploaded was our art studio. We had a studio with some 25 art tables. We had artists working at the art tables doing our comics in-house, and writers in-house as well. But yeah, you've got guys working at the tables, and yeah, that's Chromium Man.
This is the dude?
Yeah, the guy, the one where he's punching is the best. That's the cover.
Man, he is cool.
Yeah, he's kick-ass.
What a badass. This is kind of like in the vein of the kind of comic book that I want to do.
Yeah, really dynamic. Yeah, that was cool. It was a lot of fun doing it. And I came up with a character. I wrote about half of it, and then we worked with another writer on it. And it was a lot. It's just so much fun. It's just so much fun working on comics. I mean, the thing is, it's got to be successful. If it's not successful, you don't get to play. But you have to work to make it successful. And, that's where the thing, too, is you have to know what you're good at. And don't fake the stuff you're not good at. Put the team together. Don't go through all the effort to make comics. But let's say, the story is clunky. You didn't have an editor look at it, whatever it happens to be. That's really my best advice to people is just make sure the lettering works. Make sure everything works. Have friends you can ask, hey, what do you think of this? It's so important. It's really so important.
No, I agree with that, man. And being a first timer, I'm a pretty seasoned artist at this point, but that the writing process is going to be quite interesting, just to see whether or not it pans out in the end.
Well, it will pan out if you do the right thing. And here's what you're supposed to do. I can say this with authority.
Oh,
you need to speak to an editor. I have 2 people I trust, but one person that I'm actively working with, this guy, Professor Geek. I pay him a reasonable fee. He looks at everything that I'm doing on G.I. Jackrabbits, and he's contributing to it as an editor and a writer. And we're almost done with our 48-page graphic novel. The writing is getting complete. and he's
Cool.
also great counsel to me on character designs. And there are a lot of unique character designs to tie it into. It's actually being done in like multiple styles. What I wanted to do, it just turns out it's, as always, very, very, like, almost too ambitious, but we're getting it done. But the point is, you have someone help in the area that you're not 100% on, and you pay them a fee, and then you know that they have a reputation. They'll help you keep whatever you need to do, like, to a certain standard. You know,
Totally.
so that then you're okay. Then you don't have to worry how is it going to turn out. And one of the big tricks with writing is it's a discipline like anything else. It's not just sitting down and writing that this happens, that happens, that happens. There's so many tropes and archetypes that are very appropriate, especially for what we do with superhero comics or action comics, fantasy comics, science fiction. So you want to leverage existing structures, existing tropes that actually fit within what you want to do. So that provides it's the anatomy of the story, literally. So you're not gonna do things in character design that don't respect anatomical rules. You may bend some, but you're not going to bend things that you don't know.
Very true. Very true. And you bend it within a certain, spectrum, I would say. Those rules once learned, that's great. It actually doesn't take that long to learn the rules. But then, like, the hard part is whether or not you've got that natural intuition to go your own way a little bit and to create something that's a bit outside the box that is familiar and relatable to the audience or the genre or the theme that you're working within, but still different enough to give them something new.
That's sort of like, that's greatness. When you're putting your stamp and your style on any kind of style or genre, but that takes, you have to thoroughly understand the basics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise people's style and their stamp tends to be amateurishness, like weaknesses that they never learned how to draw, whatever it might be, feet properly or faces or whatever it might be. It's like, you don't want to be known for that. You want to be known for, like, you wouldn't be able to hit all the buttons you have to hit, so you're like technically proficient, and then you want to be able to express whatever it is that you have to say stylistically that is more advanced. But once you understand the basics, it's like with the constraints of the 6-panel page. It's like, you know what, the story you can't be lazy on story, but just have a cool looking panel, a cool looking splash page, but really nothing is going on. It's just cool. It's like, well, we also don't, like, if we have a sexy girl on a cover, that's fine, but we don't have a sexy girl like just being sexy for no reason, like coming out of a shower or something like that, and then zombies attacking her. It's not part of the story.
Yeah, of course.
So the story takes itself very seriously. The covers could be a little whimsical, even, but you can't do that if you do that in the midst of telling a story. You interrupt again. It's a suspension of disbelief. You can't just throw crazy. It's not Monty Python here.
Yeah, exactly.
Not people slapping each other with fish or something.
No. I mean, it could be. Do you have anyone getting slapped with a fish in your book?
We do not. It's not germane to what we're doing. We have people getting stabbed in the head with broken guitars, zombies and stuff like that. That's fully appropriate for the story.
More your style, Adam. More your style. No, that's I agree with that. I think ideally, if you can get the great visuals and the great story, that's when you're going to hit a home run every time. It's rare. It's a rare combination to get, even for those out there who've been doing it for a while. You see great stories with bad art and good art with terrible stories all the time. But when you get that perfect balance of the two, that's when you've got a winner.
Usually you can accomplish that with a great creative team. It's not usually just one guy who's pulling everything off well on his own, because what winds up happening is, like, for example, our Ashcan book, that's really a making of book. We have it listed in the campaign with book 1. We're working on putting together the making of book for book 2 now.
Cool.
We'll offer it in a couple of weeks, I think. And I want to offer it with free shipping to anyone who's already backed us, and then ship it as part of the order if they want to add that to the order. But this is from the one from book one. This is available now. It also has an add-on. But when you're so disciplined and structured, like the way we deliver the script to the artist, it's a full script. So we tell them exactly what's going on in each panel and what to draw. We give them any photo reference they need. So if we're saying, hey, there's a football player in uniform running down a field, we've got a photo. It's so easy to type that in Google now as you're giving it, you're writing. And like you give that to your writer, give them information.
Oh, totally.
Right. And then you've got the artist. Now, his time to shine is execute rough layouts consistent with what the script says and what the reference shows. Now, if you've got a better idea and you want us to look at it, fine, do a rough. Ideally, let us know that you deliberately didn't follow instructions on that one panel or whatever it is. But if not, we'll see it when we check the roughs when they come back. Now, we're talking about communication. This is communication. This is telling, this is a writer from an approved script that I okayed, whatever, going to an artist with good reference. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I've thought through. This is what I think is going to work. And here's the layout I think that's going to work. And then that's communication to the artist. Then the artist gives the roughs back with his own interpretation, maybe making a mistake, maybe coming up with a creative idea. And then that leaves the writer or editor, whoever's in charge of it, the opportunity to look at what the artist returned. That's his communication, so that we can approve it and say, all right, I get what you're trying to do here. Or if there's a correction that needs to be done, or an idea that just kind of didn't jive properly, then we can go back and say, hey, look, on that panel where we meant something different, or yes, you did what we asked, but actually it doesn't look like I thought it would look. That's the communication. And the key part of the communication with that process is you never want to just say like, well, that's the other guy's problem. When you're working on a team, nobody's time is to ever be wasted. You know, that's crucial. That's customer service. It's professional courtesy. And it's also allowing someone to do the minimal amount of effort and valuing them the most. And then that way they're getting paid the most money for the least time and energy that they have to put into something. And especially when you don't have big budgets, and mostly we really honestly don't. Who does? You know, until you hit big numbers, how are you going to pay people a fortune? One thing you don't want to do is inconvenience people or disrespect them. You know, make them feel appreciated by just communicating with them well. And then there is also a way to tell someone if you don't agree with them. Say like, hey, I see what you're going for here. Let me ask you, how do you think it might look if we do it this other way? Or, hey, I like what you did, but you know, it would mean a lot to me if we could try it like this as well. Like you just have to consider the other person. But to me, that communication, I try to bring it up often because I don't hear people talk about it much.
Well, it is so important. And for anyone watching, this is the inner workings of how a comic book gets pulled together by multiple people, by a group of people. And if you want to freelance or you want to get commissions, this is the kind of stuff that you have to keep in mind in order to have that business transaction go as smoothly as possible with a minimal amount of obstacles along the way. Because there's just so many ways in which these things can go down the toilet. And you have falling outs with clients, and clients end up not receiving the product that they paid for. You know, you hear about that, you know, people running away with your money and never delivering that final thing, and huge delays.
When a project gets started like this, and then it's, say, you know, 3 months later or 6 months later, and it's completely off the rails, it's completely off the rails, and it can't be rescued with the existing creative team. That's not always, but all right. To me, it's almost always mutual negligence, like on both sides, because like if you're involved in a project and you're even semi-professional, you've done some professional work before, if there's something screwy going on between you and your employer or you and your contractor, like if something doesn't feel right. And that attitude of like just being like, never be like, well, it's the other guy's problem, he's paying for it, too bad. Before the other thing too, like I tell my friends in other lines of business as well that do other things, like You never want the other people that you're working with to be working inefficiently, where they're going to lose money on something either. So if you see something, you should really always say something, because before long it becomes your problem and you're cleaning up a much bigger mess too.
Oh yeah, messes grow.
You could be really produce excellent work and keep it within budget if your communication is good. And then also, if things aren't working out, you got to have straight talk with people, see where they're coming from. And if you can't resolve it, you got to go your separate ways and just, cut it off. And then sometimes it is personality conflict. Sometimes, like, I've seen people agree to work on comic projects, and not for me, because I know how to ask the screening questions well up front, because I've done this so many times. But I've seen people work on comics projects and the relationship doesn't work because they never had the conversation of, like, well, how many pages per day realistically can you do? What other projects are you working on? If someone says, yeah, I can draw a comic, but they haven't drawn it before, they don't know how many hours they have to invest. No. So even if you're paying someone, a very fair freelance rate, which right now is about 150 a page, I'd say, like, get somebody great from Comics Geek, not Ethan Van Sciver, but somebody very good from Comics Geek to do a page for you, pencils and inks, let's say, roughly speaking, 150 a page, reasonable page. But for people without experience doing that work, that might be 5 days work for them. Well, that's not enough. You can't pay people $30 a page and say, well, that's their problem. Like, no, if it doesn't work for them economically, it's not going to work for your project. It's got to make sense.
Yeah.
So that's part of the communication. This other thing that's a little bit lower is an art book that we made for book one. We're also, yeah, man. And that's another point of leverage of producing the 6-panel grid, is that we wound up with these single panels. There are 252 single panels that make up book one, and an equal number that make up book two. That was an art book made for book one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you actually, because I saw this recently when I was looking through the campaign. Was that an intention from the beginning, and did that help inform your decision to do your comic book in that 6-panel layout?
I'm going to come right back, because I have the physical book. It's just in the other room, and I'm so proud of how the thing came out. I'm going to show you what that looks like. I would be back in one moment.
Yeah, totally. By the way, guys, thanks so much for all your awesome comments. Chris, so good to see you here, man. I know that you always used to comment and give us your feedback on the podcast. Thanks so much. It's good to see you back. Love your comments. You always give me a good laugh. And Johnny Cage, thanks for being here. Jax, I'm not sure how I pronounce that. Johnny Fitz, everybody that has joined us here. Not sure if the replicator is still there, but Rob, thank you as well for your wonderful comments. If you've got any questions for Adam, be sure to put them in the comments, and I'll get them up on the screen, and I'll get Adam to answer some of those queries for you. And
now, do you know how to? If you look at the top left-hand corner that says "solo" over my picture, you could do a full screen of just me. Do you know how to do that?
Yeah, I know how to do that. There we go.
This is the art book.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, this is like, I'm busy making these comics. All I have to do is give these people money, and they send me this beautiful artwork executing my script. I'm like, this is the best thing in the world, to be able to get to see your stuff come to life, and and then get the art. And this is the art without the lettering. So the only way to see Javier's beautiful black and white art without the lettering is to get the art book.
That looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it really came out. It really worked well, and we got some great feedback on it. This is the ash can, and
cool.
This is the okay. This is the book. Like, which book is which? There's so many damn books. This is like a comparison of size of the book. So the art book's a little wider and a little shorter, but it's a square 8.5 by 8.5. And this is the first book. This we published 2 panels per page. With lettering. This one's the 140-page book one. Of course, now everyone.
Like that works better.
I thought it worked better. Well, you'll like the color. Really looks excellent. It really, really does. It works well, 6 panels per page. But at the same time, people want a version like this. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be stuck making like multiple versions just to satisfy everybody, which is fine. You know, I love these things. So this is the script, 1 page, rough layouts. The next page. This is a 100-page book. This Ashcan.
Wow.
And it's a whole, new book. It's very educational. I really love how it came out. There's some additional character stuff in the back of the book, character designs and things like that. But it really is a cool format, and it really is super educational. People get an understanding of how the books was actually made. Especially for people that enjoyed the book, it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
This is not for sale, but just to show you, it's kind of fun. I made a collection of, this is the black and white book from book 1 and book 2. Book 2 has been complete for a while now.
See, that looks awesome.
Well, that's in black and white. The color is really cool too, I'm telling you, but I'm going to have to make a black and white version. Some kind of collection like this. This is something, I've had this for a little while now, and I'm like, man, I really like it. But the thing is,
like the 2-panel layout. That that's also what I'm referring to.
I really do too. The thing that made me want to do the 6-panel per page format the most when we first designed it was, this was before Comicsgate when I started on this, and I was like, you know what? I'll bet I can create a social media audience for these panels and kind of make this automatically viral by producing this that way. So I published a lot of these panels individually on a Facebook page, and it did get a lot of shares and it got a lot of activity, and that was cool. But yeah, I did that over the space of, I think, about 6 months or something like that. And people, they wound up with like 3,000 Facebook followers on the page, but they weren't customers. Those weren't people that were buying books. Ultimately, they weren't convertible into customers just because they kind of liked my virtual web comic.
That is the thing, Adam, is it's surprising how few conversions there are from places like Facebook. I'm not too sure about Instagram, but I'm assuming that it'd probably be a similar outcome.
I've heard some positive things about Instagram. It's sort of like, the only way to do it is there's 2 ways to do it. One, you got to go get on YouTube. You got to be personal. You got to talk about your projects. Find other people to work with, because it creates an energy. Like, you and me are having a nice moment. We're having a great show tonight. We are. It's kind of, it's a nice, but people get to share on this. They get to share in our conversation, our friendship, our professional mutual respect, and ideas that we're generating. People are all part of that process. That is what gets people engaged. That's what gets people really interested in part of the process. Sometimes the chat will make a suggestion. I was on a live stream a couple of days ago, a week ago it was, and someone suggested, I was like, I'm thinking of ideas for College is Dead 3, because 2, as far as I'm concerned, is a monster hit. We generated as much money in 15 days than we generated literally in 8 months.
Yep, so, and that was on what, Ethan's? When you were on Ethan's stream?
Well, that was even before Ethan's stream. We generated as much money without any support from Ethan's stream in the first whatever it was, 12 days, compared to what it took me 60 days. So we were running at 400%. We were like beyond what we did the first time around.
Yeah.
And
I saw the people kind of getting on your case about not raising as much money or whatever.
It wasn't even about my case. Even it was just what they were doing was they were noticing that, like, my campaign had launched, but and I hadn't done big numbers like Comicsgate books have been typically doing. And that story was just, they saw it as an opportunity to say, oh, well, the Comicsgate system doesn't work because he does YouTube videos and he's getting on streams, and, but his book isn't selling, so Comicsgate doesn't have influence. Well, I wasn't on Ethan. I've been on Ethan's stream, but not to promote my book ever. College of the Dead book 1, yes, not College of the Dead book 2. The first time I was available to do it was the same day he was launching Cyberfrog. So to me, my responsibility to Comicsgate, to Ethan's channel in particular, to my relationship with Ethan, is if he's launching a book and he puts in one of our shared groups a link and he wants us to help him do something, like he's going to launch a show, he wants company, he wants people in there, and I knew he's launching Cyberfrog Wreck Planet. Like, I'm going there. That's my focus, is to help him, create energy about Wrecked Planet. Not
Totally, man.
my project. My project, I knew there'd be time for when there was time for it. In the meantime, I was doing fine on my own. So you have to really put the other guy first. But at the same time, Ethan was even saying a couple nights ago, like, Adam needs to promote his project more on my show, and I will, but it's like, there's time for all of that. I'm a long game guy. Like, let's make everyone successful. And if someone has something going on a Sunday and that's their day, you get them going. And hopefully everyone will think the same of me. That I'm doing College of the Dead book 3. And when I do that in a couple of months after I ship this book and deliver it to everyone, then it'll be my launch day. I'll have my opportunity. And plenty of guys were there for my launch day.
Totally, man. It's all about building those bridges and connections. And, I think maybe some people do come into a community like Comicsgate not realizing that that's the case, and they just expect all these people to just promote their book there and then without putting any groundwork.
Yeah, people should see Comicsgate as an opportunity, and they should see something as, you got to pay your dues. I have people referred to me now because I was the new guy last June, and people helped me out. So I'm out there helping people out as much as I possibly can. And the way you do it is just tell people how it basically works. And I just did a video today about it, which is, in Comicsgate, we promote other creators who promote us. So people will sometimes say, like, oh, you love comics. Why aren't you guys supporting IDW or Alterna? We do support Alterna sometimes because we're so cool with Peter Simeti, and he does support some of our projects too. But generally, no, we're not out there supporting the big corporations' comics. That's not our job. They're not supporting us either. Coke don't sell Pepsi. Pepsi don't sell Coke. Walmart doesn't say, why don't you go into Target? You could save some money. I hear they have a sale. Like, that's, we're here to support our creators. And also because really directly as part of Comicsgate, it is expected that you're going to retweet, you're going to say good things about, if appropriate, and give positive energy to other people who are supporting you.
So and I think there's a deeper meaning as well, Adam. Like, what I love, because I'm not going to have a comic book to put out there for probably a year, to be honest with you. But what
we got to cut your page count down to 48 pages. That's it. No more.
Well, that's what
Stop
it is.
with 110 pages. You have 45 pages of roughs.
It's not 110 pages. It's only 45. But I'm going to finish it before I put it out there. I'm going to market it, of course, but before I do the Indiegogo campaign, I'd rather have it done.
Well, we'll talk offline. I want to know what your schedule is. I want to know when you're going to get all your roughs done, and then when you're going to start final pages, and how many, and what the schedule is going to be. Are we going to do it? I don't want a schedule of less than 2 pages a week, or you're not serious.
Oh, no way, man. That's
at least 2 finished pages per week.
I'll show you, when we finish talking about this, we'll get some of that up. But as I said, like, I love the fact that we're here. We're becoming friends. I'm getting to know you. You're getting to know me. Absolutely. We're talking comic books. We're talking about the things that we're creating and that we love. And I mean, what better way to bond with somebody is there than to relate on the same level with our passions? And I think with that kind of mindset within the community, there'll be less people, trying to take advantage of one another for the wrong reasons. And when it comes to, promoting one another's books, they'll be doing it less as
you can really see where,
but as a friend, I'm always going to suggest my friend's stuff.
But you know what it is people, sort of like when you're invited into a strange land of sorts, people when in Rome, so you have to understand, like, well, what are the local customs here? What are we doing? Is this somewhere I belong? There's a certain amount. Yeah, I mean, and I like to tell people what's expected of them if they get involved with Comicsgate, because it's so much easier for people to, like, say, oh, well, I'm really not that kind of person. Like, we're competitive, but we're not competitive in a negative way. If we're talking about, like, beating it, like, I want to beat that damn Replicator remastered project, but and I'm well on the way to, Rob. Sorry. But anyway, it's not like if he beats me on his next campaign or I beat him on this campaign, there's not going to be hard feelings anywhere.
No way. It's fun competition.
Ethan just broke 400,000 on Cyberfrog. I'm really happy for him. And I know I did everything I could to just make positive energy that first day he launched. He brought the project and he did everything there. The little bit of a fraction that I could have been there, I was useful in some way, and positive. And it's great exposure. It's also great exposure for me too. People know who the hell I am because he has me on his streams, and that invites other opportunities. But in any case, I'm happy for him, like incredibly happy for him. And whatever he can do, any of us can do. We better be ready to do the work.
Dude, it's a lot of inspiring.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. To see that. It's inspiring. It keeps you enthusiastic. It shows you what the possibilities are. You don't need $400,000 to do well. Of course. You don't really don't like. And if you look at my campaign, see, I've always been very serious about managing the numbers. I don't let the freaking expenses run away crazy. You make promises you can keep. But like on this campaign, I think we have 189 backers or maybe 190 backers now, which is fantastic.
Let's have a look.
But if you look at it, what's one of the interesting things about my campaign is look at the number of people that bought the prequel and the one of the new books. And if you look at, there's like 190 backers. But if we look at, wait a minute, I have it here as well. All right, let's do a quickie refresh. So this is important. Backlist is a great opportunity. So book 1, we did 40 copies of the prequel and Arm and a Leg set. So I'm just counting prequels now. So there's 40 of the prequel there, which is the first book. There's another 31 of the prequel with the graduation cover. So that's 71 of the prequel so far. Plus there's 8 of the one of everything, which is a great compliment to me. So that's 8. I'm just so happy that everybody would, people want to support at that level. That's really, it's really appreciated. So that's 39 plus 40. So that's 79 copies of that first book. So of the 190 backers, 79 or almost the full half of them are picking up the prequel, the book from the prior campaign. So when I get to the point that I'm doing College of the Dead book 3, I'll be able to sell a printing of book 1, of book 2, that backlist, and the front list of College of the Dead book 3, which is why I keep telling people, like, you must do sequels. You cannot, do not be indulgent and have one hit title and then say, all right, now I want to go do another idea because I want to express myself. And then like, all right, that's adorable, but the opportunity that's being lost is like, look at the growth from College of the Dead. Like the first book, it took me 8.5 months to get $10,600. 8.5 months, that's a long time. And
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's a long. And now in 16 days approximately. So there's 11,180. The campaign will probably end at, it could be 15,000. It could be 25,000. It depends on how I manage it, other promotion that I do, the wind, luck, who knows. And then there likely will be an extension of another 30 days. I probably will do. And then it'll generate more in that 30-day period. How much more? Who knows? But the point is, it's going to be a considerably bigger number. And as long as I deliver and people like what they get, why would I not do more on book 3 as people get to know the brand more, and then it starts to have more of a network effect. Like, College of the Dead. Wow, I like zombies. Okay, you've put out these 2. Now you're putting out College of the Dead 3, which one of the chats suggested, College of the Dead Spring Break, which I'm absolutely doing, and it fits perfectly into our continuity. It's very, very cool. Well, Haley.
I think Rob wanted a nursing home as well.
He's not getting a nursing home. I saw that stupid comment. Damn you, Rob. Damn you, Rob. Always replicating. How dare he? Replicating trouble mostly. So the point is, like, there's a lot of opportunity for all of us out there, but we need a 6-month turnaround time. We need 2 books a year on a single brand, because the network effect of being up to book 3 the ability that people have seen that you've done this before. They've been seeing it around now for a year and a half. I think book 3 is going to be, twice whatever book 2 is. I don't know what it's going to do. And if it isn't, if it does, the same or even a little less than book 2, and I need to come up with a better presentation or whatever in the future, all right, then I'll learn a lesson. But I just don't even see that as possible, because as long as you're doing good work, commercial work, it's good that it's a passion project. Make sure it's a commercial idea too, because you could be passionate about a commercial idea. As long as people get to see it, it will sell. You'll do well. So the first thing is, this kind of goes back to what we're talking about, YouTube, so you can get engagement with people and have them understand it's your passion project. Also for you, Clayton, we'll get you, you've got to be on other shows. You've got to have some art to show for the project. You got to start getting comfortable talking about it. Because the more time that you have it out in the world, the more you'll get how the energy and the format works, and other people can start to support you. We'll push you to have the pre-launch list so people can sign up. Because you may have other email lists that's tied to like the how to draw thing or whatever it is. That's useful, but the conversion rate on that email list is going to be much less than people who've seen you on let's say my show talking about the amazing flying whatever you got going, your Superman or whatever your characters are. And then people sign up to that list. They're signing up with the expectation of like, okay, this is, they're going to follow your series. So
the comic book,
specific. Not that your other list isn't useful. It is. It's just, of course, but these names are going to be like, those are going to be the important names. Like when we say, listen, you have 300 of those names, you've got a pretty good start on a decent first campaign. Less than 300 names is really asking for trouble, because you launch before you have say sufficient exposure to the network and customers.
But what would the ideal number be?
High as possible, but your obligation is you need to hustle so that you have at least 300 names. And you also need to be on like my show, Vinny Tartamella's show, Red Gage's show, Sim Poitier show. Yeah, I mean we what we need to see is the title of your book, art from your book. If it's just concept art, ideally a cover, but there should be a call to action for a free sign up page on Indiegogo, which they'll let you run for 6 months until you launch. And then if 6 months isn't soon enough, you can always export the email list and start a new pre-launch page. That's fine. But you want to work into, us and our system. And what's great is as soon as people know that you're working on something, like I know that you're working on something, I don't know what the heck it is. You'll tell me whatever. But as soon as it starts to become a real thing, and then we start thinking like, well, what do you need to make this happen? So it's sort of like as if we're investors. We're like, well, we're going to get some ROI on this. Like there's no return on investment other than like, oh, great. We have another cool guy, another talented guy who really wants to bring his idea out. He's going to be fun. That adds value to, to what we're doing. So we that's why we like to, inspire other people. And then you're out there also helping and promoting other people.
Well, I mean, I'll get something up for you now. So,
sure.
This is the first character concept I've been working on this morning. Just tackled it today. So he's one of the main characters in the book, right? And he's awesome.
Scary. I like him.
He is scary. He's a bit of an alpha, this guy. But the most important thing that I've just wrapped up is these thumbnails, as I said. So I'll get them up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Because I wanted to. I wanted to know exactly where the book was going to go before I started tackling the character concepts and drawing it up, like the final version especially. So,
look at that. I love that rigid format. Only I like that. I mean, people like
these are actually individual pages.
Oh, wow, they're pages. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So it's probably a little bit hard to see there.
Oh, I get it. I kind of get what you got going on. So there's a story there.
There is a story, yeah.
When does this take? Is this taking place on Earth or science fiction? What genre?
So this is a sci-fi action, and if you're a fan of late 80s, early 90s movies, then this is going to be your gig, because that's very much what's inspired this book. Movies like The Terminator RoboCop,
Wow.
Aliens, a bit of course, Judge Dredd in there. That's the vein that I'm going for. So there's lots of actions, big muscles, big guns, sexy ladies, aliens,
All
and
good.
the story basically surrounds this one character who is kidnapped by the alien invaders because Earth is now in an apocalyptic state, very much the same as in your comic, Adam,
Good.
except they're dealing with aliens now, and they have kidnapped this particular soldier, and their plan is to turn him into an alien hybrid. And the dangerous part about that is he'll know exactly where the human colony is, and if this thing, they call it a splicer because it's human DNA and alien DNA spliced together. If this creature hits the base, it could wipe out an entire human colony. So this particular first issue actually centers around a group of mercenaries, Marines, the rescue team who are going in to try and save this guy. If not save him, eliminate him if it's too late and he's already been mutated. And basically, by the end of the book, after going through a series of conflicts with the alien opponents, the alien opposition, they end up arriving deep inside the alien base, ready to take out, ready to go and rescue him, basically. So yeah.
So your guy he's the main character, that guy we just saw?
No, actually, he's the guy leading the rescue team. Actually,
which one of them is called Replicator? Only kidding. But he's leading the team. So is is the main character? This is not the main character.
The main character is the guy that's actually going to be rescued because he kind of gets merged with alien DNA, but not fully. So he gets basically the strengths of the aliens, the strength of the humans, and then he gets repaired with cybernetic reconstructive surgery, right? So he's also got that on his side. But the trick is that they've made it so that the humans can control him just in case things get a little bit out of hand, because he's this powerful being now, and they want to make sure that he's fighting on the human side. And I guess that's where the influence of RoboCop comes into play there.
Yeah,
but it's a mixed bag of all the things I love.
In Triumphant Comics, that was a science fiction universe, and what we did with those was we had Earth not even be mentioned in the story. It was all off Earth,
sweet.
like kind of like a dirty Star Wars kind of universe. Yep. And we had these characters. We had so Chromium Man was like a genetically engineered super soldier guy. And his job was to be part of what I called the Riot Guard.
Yeah.
So the Riot Guard would be like these powerful beings that worked for, it was called the Realm, and they were employed by the Realm and kind of basically kept as a living weapon of like, go suppress this, go punch that spaceship, go do all that stuff. That's Chromium Man.
Nice.
Now, after some stuff didn't work out with some of these guys because they just wouldn't always follow orders, these Riot Guard, they created the Riot Gear. That was another whole series. We did about 8 issues of those. The Riot Gear are human beings that are in like super suits, powerful Iron Man type of suits. The suits could be controlled and overridden by the Realm operators. So the Riot Gear went after, and they're trying to wipe out the rest of the Riot Guard, who are these unreliable Chromium Man types. He had actually retired from working for the Realm, and he was kind of in hiding, and he's discovered by them on his on this homeworld. But what becomes interesting about these really powerful characters, especially a powerful character that kind of runs away from his responsibility, but the responsibilities were bad, like a forced mercenary role. He starts this new life with his wife on the planet, and that's in Chromium Man 1. And that's all good and well for him. But if you think about it, if you know that you are, a wanted man, a wanted creature, and you go to a planet and you're like, well, I'm going to retire. I'm just going to kind of hide out. You're actually putting that whole planet in danger.
Yeah.
So he is a hero, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, but maybe, I don't know. How do you tell the planet as well? Like, hey,
You're
maybe
not
you
good
guys,
for them.
yeah, I'm no good for you guys. Like, but we love you anyway. Like, but anyway, I like that thing where you have these powerful mercenaries that are, reluctant. They're trying to get out of their life, but they kind of, once you've made your bed, you kind of are who you are. You have to live with that. And then whatever other relationships you get in, they have to kind of deal with that. But then that other aspect of, wouldn't it just be more efficient if we can make them to make these riot gear? If you're curious to see them, it's RIOT, then the word gear, GEAR.
You want me to get those up?
If you're curious, yeah, what the heck, you may as well see this. Some of the covers are
Riot
pretty
Gear.
cool. GEAR.
Is this a comic book?
Yeah, just write comic. Probably it'll pop up.
Oh yeah, cool.
There they go.
Oh,
Right,
nice,
well,
man.
yeah,
You're
that's
giving
the
me
first
some
one.
inspiration.
Cool. Yeah, check out more of Triumphant Comics of what we've done. Yeah,
Sick.
so then the Riot Gear would go after, that's them not in oh, you know what? That's number 2. If you look at number 1, which is yellow up at the top hand left, yeah, they're in suits there. That was a painted
That's
cover.
awesome, man.
So yeah, thanks. So their function is they execute work, things for the realm. They do what they're told to do. They're soldiers, and their suits give them powers, but they also are controlled remotely. And they got a problem. They just turn the air off in the suit. I mean, you're really a prisoner, prisoner soldier.
Yeah, I love that.
It's an interesting concept. So that was actually, both of those were that was my concept. The realm was something that actually my brother was working with us at the time. He came up with the concept of the realm, and then we kind of worked with writers and stuff. That was overly ambitious, and that's another thing that I was 24 when I did that. And my recommendation to people too is, it's yes, be ambitious, and yes, take on challenges, but build momentum. Don't get overly ambitious, because just a little too much of something is too much. And then you things suffer as a result. Which is why it's great. You're going to get your comic done in advance, so you could just concentrate on promotion.
Yeah, man, it's totally, and I think it's a good way to go about it. I'm actually going to launch a website for this on my Brighton Bros Studios site. So I'll do up a page. I'll do an email list there. I'll do an email list for Indiegogo. The title of the book, by the way, is Renegade Alpha. So that's probably only the second time I've mentioned that on these streams. So
cool. Well, play with it.
Should be fun.
Resign yourself at this point, especially, to working titles, and you can even let people know the working title is Renegade Alpha.
Totally.
Sometimes titles are very tricky, and sometimes a title doesn't even sound good on a Sunday, but then by Wednesday you're in love with it. Yeah. Now, like you didn't ask, but I'll comment on it.
No, please do.
Renegade Alpha. Like College of the Dead is almost the perfect title. It just sometimes it happens to work that way. I was lucky with coming up with the name, and I have friends I can bounce things off of. So there's no excuse to not get their feedback from me. It would be absurd to not get their feedback. I mean, other guys who've been, in comics publishing and related stuff for a long time. So I always ask them what they think. Now, I have another book I'm publishing called The Mermaids, and that's Game of Thrones with mermaids, all female mermaids set underwater.
That's awesome.
Talk about ambitious. That was far too ambitious. That was ridiculous. Wow. But I decided a few years ago I wanted to start on it, and I'm like, I just have to do it. So I just started doing it, and there are like 35 characters. So complicated, but it came out great. But the original title I had for that was Mermaids at War.
Cool.
And I told a friend about it, and he's like, just make it as simple as you can and keep it iconic. And I was like, well, what would you suggest? And he's like, how about just the Mermaids? And I was like, yeah, that's better than Mermaids at War. I mean, it just feels like it's more encompassing of it's not going to endlessly be war. It's just the mermaids.
It's simple, yeah. Rolls off the tongue a bit easier.
This is my friend actually used to work for Marvel. He's the one that suggested the title for Marvel's #1 Spider-Man book, which was just very simply Spider-Man. No more Amazing Spider-Man, no Spectacular Spider-Man,
Yeah.
just Spider-Man. And
Cool.
they were like, okay, yeah. And then Tom drew it and it was a big seller.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he always gives me feedback like that. So the thing I would think of is you want to see, like, what is your title evocative of? And, you know, what does it make the audience think of when they hear the title? And can you give them really a flavor for what you're doing just by the title?
Yep.
You know, so that's when you want to bounce that off of people and see, you know, what that means to them. You know, Rob has the book called The Replicator, right? Or just Replicator.
Replicator.
Okay. You know, what the hell does that mean? Well, we've talked about it, and he was on a stream with me with Liam Gray, who's an Aussie and just a great guy. Well worth having on. Definitely reach. I'll connect the two of you if you haven't reached out already. Yeah. Okay. He's great on story, like excellent. He has a writing expertise that's outside of comics, and he's been in writer rooms and things like that. And he asks such fantastic questions.
Nice.
He's doing Xenotype right now, and that's
cool.
manga book he wrote, and he's the man on that one. But yeah, he was asking Rob questions, and it was funny because I didn't know that the Replicator was this superhero kind of guy who could replicate inanimate objects. Until Liam was asking him like detailed, like, well, who is a replicator? What does he do? And things like that. And there is, like, in the Replicator, there's this story about the pandemic, and then there's a story about the wealthy people, and then there's a story about him and his wife. But I don't know what part of it is like the story of the Replicator. You know, so all of these things, like, you get done early on, and then you figure out, like, well, what title, you know, really represents the story and like the feel of the book. When we came up with the Chromium Man, I think it was me when we were kicking it around that was like, well, let's call it, instead of Chromium Man, the Chromium Man. And for some reason, the Chromium Man just tells you there's this this whole like world of story that's wrapped up around him, and it's about him, and it's about his world, and he's sort of like, he's the only person that's really important in his world. There's just sort of a staging to it by just calling it the Chromium Man. So you want to play around with things. So I don't know what your story is, so I don't know. You know, it doesn't make it clear to me to know your title yet. But you can have working titles and play with it. The art looks fantastic. The thumbnails look fantastic.
Thanks.
Just one thing
when they're done.
Yeah. Oh, I hope so. But I mean, save these roughs. That's content right there.
Oh yeah. I might do a book actually. Oh, just these. It might be fun.
Do it. You know, but that's why it's worth it to write out for your work process. It's good to have a script anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. And then yes, it's a book. You know, you saw what I did. Do what I did. There's money in this. You know, for me, it's a $25 book. People love this book. Some people like this book as much or better than the other book because there's so much information in exposing the process. And
totally.
the people are buying books, they're buying information.
Yeah, they are, man. And like we touched on before, it's surprising when I put out a basic sketch like this. Like if I was to put this guy out at this stage, right, it is surprising how many people just love and how much engagement just the basic rough draft gets. Sometimes even more so than the finished product. And I haven't worked out why that is just yet, but I'm assuming it's because that they feel like they're a part of the process. You know, they're coming in the middle, and then that gives them something to look forward to at the end. But who knows?
Chris Crenham says the main character is an alpha, and he behaves like a renegade. Hopefully, that's a good way to say it.
Basically,
thanks, Bob.
So basically, and again, it is working titles. You're 100% right, Adam. This guy's called Slug at the moment. Maybe not. I mean, all the character names are working titles too at this point.
Everything could be working. The thing is, you need to know fundamentally whose story is it. If you're doing science fiction, Are you familiar with Oh, this is something I could recommend to you that you're going to really like.
Oh yeah,
Do
let's
you
get it up.
have you read some books on story?
I've watched some master classes on story. I love story. Like I
All
watch
right.
a lot of movies. Don't read a whole lot though, surprisingly.
Here's something that's going to make you
Yeah,
a more powerful writer, and
brilliant.
you'll be more confident. You know, the whole thing is when you develop a skill set for something,
Mm,
then you have confidence. So there's no second guessing. There's none of this
totally.
bullshit like, oh, I hope people like it. Like, no, no, you know what good is. If you don't know what good is, then you need to collaborate with someone else. But you can
That's
still
exactly
build up
it.
skills quickly.
Yeah.
So
All right.
I'm going to give you a link to this. It's story by Robert McKee. My
Okay.
goodness, is this good? Now, Robert McKee teaches classes in screenwriting.
Lovely.
Where the hell is this? And he wrote a book called Story. Now, where the heck? I'm trying to find. I'm pretty sure there's an audio book. I mean, it might be like 5 hours or something.
Oh,
Um,
nice. I like
yeah,
audiobooks.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, do you want
you
me to
could,
just Google it?
yeah, just Story by Robert McKee. Amazon will have the book, and I always recommend that highly to people. One of the things he does the best job of doing is giving you story conventions.
Mm.
So you can write things that are off convention. We were talking about this earlier with following anatomy, the anatomy of a story. You can write things that's definitely the book I'm seeing on the
Cool.
right. And you can write things that don't follow conventions. You can have a science fiction story that's really just a love story.
Yep.
However, when people see a science fiction story from Robert McKee's experience and all of his analysis, and he explains his examples,
Mm.
one of the conventions is a science fiction story is supposed to be a story that makes a statement about the future. So you're not
Mm.
supposed to go to the trouble of building some complicated science fiction set and scenery, and you with all of your design work, with your science fiction backgrounds and alien spaceships. But all I'm going to see is a love story between some girl and a guy. But I'm going to have these wild scenery. It's like, no, there's supposed to be a statement about the future. Things
Cool.
like, if we don't learn to such and such, then we're going to lose our humanity. That's a statement about the future. Then that becomes a
Yeah.
controlling idea. That's the anatomy of the story. That's the backbone of the story.
Hmm.
And then when you're designing the story, it becomes um, proving, disproving the conflict, proving, overcoming, and then finally proving again the argument as if it's a debate of why your through line is ultimately correct, your statement of the story.
Yep.
I hope this isn't $53, but there are cheaper ways of getting this book if
No,
that's
no,
the
I'll
case.
definitely check it out. I've
Yeah.
seen this book recommended a few times before, actually, and in some of the videos and courses I've come
Oh,
across,
cool.
people refer back to this a lot.
Yeah,
So it must be a good
it's
book.
strong foundation. And the thing with his audiobook, there are definitely, he has multiple classes, audio YouTube pieces on YouTube, and I think I've seen the audiobook on YouTube as well. It may even be as many as 8 hours or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But it's damned good. It gives you so much information. And the thing too is that I find that I learn very well from a single mentor on a subject. So I've never met him or taken one of his classes. They are out there. They are available.
Mm.
But I learn well from a teacher that loves the craft and is talking to me like, look, I care about you. I just want you to learn these things and know these things.
Yeah,
They're really important things to know. Like, a
totally.
thoughtful teacher that just wants you to have the information. So yeah,
Good
there's so
stuff,
much.
man.
There's so much you can get from his material.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'll definitely check it out, man. And I appreciate you taking the time to give me some good old fashioned advice on story
Always,
writing. To be
always.
honest, right now, I'll tell you, it's pretty damn cheesy. My story, there's probably not that much substance to it. Like you don't have to think too deeply on it. A lot of it is eye candy. The story makes enough sense to keep you engaged, and I'm hoping that there'll be, enough there to keep people hooked. But
That's and frankly, that's good enough for you to show me these thumbnails and make that statement. but it's not good enough for you to execute this book. Because what I want is I want people to read the story and be able to relate to the characters, and be surprised.
Oh yeah,
And,
don't get me wrong, they're gonna do that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to punch that up. We'll figure out how to do it.
Yeah, we will. I'll definitely make sure that I keep corresponding with you, Adam, and I'll keep you in the loop on how it's all going, and we'll discuss it. We'll catch up on these streams, and you can let me have it.
Yeah, my friends. If I see a weakness there, I'm gonna make sure that that's our job. I mean, it's really what we do is we look at things of how can we help? What can we do? And that's the other great thing about the Comicsgate Independent Publishing Network is we everyone's got something different to offer, and surprising help comes from really surprising places. So your character, does your character have a weakness? Like he's got this alien DNA, so as a result, he's able to such and such. But does he have another weakness? Like he's, I don't know what it might be. Is he going insane because of the power or the DNA or something?
Yeah, a little bit. Have you ever seen the movie The Fly?
Yeah.
Yep. So, there's a little bit of that as well. That'll be more in the second, maybe third issue. But initially, when they end up rescuing him, spoiler alert, they rescue him.
Well, you know what? Maybe don't spoiler alert it that much. But all right, there's a little bit of the Fly. We'll figure out.
That's all good.
We'll figure it out. I don't want to ruin any part of your.
No, it's okay. I want to say this. So they take him back to the base, and they give him the cybernetic enhancements, but they got to be sure that they can control him. So, as again, drawing it back to RoboCop and the way in which he wasn't really he became their product essentially, and Renegade Alpha becomes the latest and advanced weaponry against these aliens because of it. That's why he's a renegade, because he starts to want to not be controlled anymore and go his own way. But at the same time, he's kind of like this alpha being who now has the best of human DNA and alien DNA, so he's the strongest of them all. But he can't execute that strength on his own because he's being controlled. So he can be shut down, at any point. But
yeah, that actually sounds like very much in my realm of my experience with my Riot Guard and my Riot Gear kind of stuff, kind of in that in-betweeny type of stuff. And nice. We all have that thing about wanting to be powerful and feeling controlled and constrained.
I hate being controlled, so it's probably why I'm writing about it.
Yeah, well, but there are obviously benefits to that, and there are drawbacks to that, and that's something you want to be able to explore in your story.
Well, yeah, exactly, man.
There are definitely there are benefits to being controlled. There are drawbacks, and you want to show that conflict. But if your goal, let's say, ultimately, at least for your character, would be to not be controlled, to have that additional level of freedom, he's got to pay a price to get that.
Yeah,
and then you also
consequences. Does he end up turning full alien and go out of control, like Hulk mode almost?
Or does he lose part of himself?
Yeah.
Or what is he anymore?
Exactly.
Identity crises are fascinating, and we're dealing with that constantly in society, especially in a consumer society. Generally, we buy things for identity more than for need. So, so then look at that. That's almost a statement about the future. There's a statement about technology. How it makes you powerful, but you lose part of yourself, right? So
true.
when you decide you want
that.
Now, if you decide because that's like, I'm not a story expert of any sort. It's just knowing just some of the anatomy that relates to these things. Now, the other thing to make the story powerful is to be able to keep telling that, having that message play in different scenes, so that you can accomplish that metaphorically, like showing something else going on, even by unrelated characters. Other characters that are just civilians talking to each other, and something happens, but it demonstrates that conflict playing out. You see, so these things build on each other the same way that you do design, and designs or settings kind of complement each other because they kind of all fit together. You have to look at what the component pieces are, but you want the component pieces to repeat almost like a chaotic fractal, like
totally,
the way fractals do.
Yeah, in a big way, and I love
how it resonates.
You know what? I love contradiction as well. So if he like, I like the idea if he does get what he wants and he decides that he doesn't want to be controlled anymore, and that is a better option for him, but then the consequences of that kind of mess with him in a huge way, like. And I like exploring all the different sides of everything.
Yeah,
what are the pros and the cons of it? All arguments.
And you want to look at it from different sides. Like whoever it is that's trying to control him, why are they trying to control him? Are they just plain old greedy? Is
scared?
Is it? Oh yeah, are they afraid of him? Is it for his own good in a way? Do they feel obligated? Sometimes like parents do that with children. Like, look, we just want to keep you safe, so you can't leave the house. Especially nowadays, it's just like, well, that's great, but then you have a tremendous limitation in life. Other bad. It all happens to be, when you're trying to overcome conflicts. Conflict is caused because you have a conflict in direction of you can't go left and go right. You can't be married and be divorced. Like you can't be both of those things.
No,
so
exactly.
So when you're taking an action, there's an assumption going from one of the directions, say the married direction, that life is better if you go in that direction. And then there's a conflict of the assumption life is better if people were divorced, let's say. I hope you're not recently divorced. No one else is. It just happened to be an example. So, so the point, sorry about that. I had no idea. Replicator Rob didn't tell me. No, never mind all that. Sometimes I will bring this up in conversation and it happens to be like, let me think of a really relevant example. And then there's something I would pick up on. Anyway, I'm glad it's not. So occasionally I'm cursed with coming up with relevant examples. But anyway, my point is, it's all, what is good and what is bad is always in some kind of a context.
Yes.
So it depends on what your goal actually is. But you can certainly see from different points of view. Like, first of all, he's a monster now. He's part alien. He's part human.
Yep.
So no matter what happens, he's a monster. Unless he got rid of the alien DNA somehow, which doesn't sound very practical.
No, I mean, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But he's definitely he's gone through a change, you could say. And I really like that aspect from the Fly movie, because as I was coming up with ideas for this book, I started thinking about the other things that I had watched or experienced that I could compare that story to, and I guess fill it out a little bit more, or maybe establish the theme, the mood. And I really love in The Fly how he's looking at himself in the mirror and he's like, the guy's falling apart. He is losing himself. And I think that'll be a great thing to implement into the book.
Yeah, and you know what? Those kind of ideas are such classic archetypal ideas. You can take something like that and inject that exactly and directly into your story if that's the future of where the character is going.
Yeah, exactly.
But like in your case, I could almost see like maybe the alien DNA at some point, he's falling apart and the alien DNA continues to change him and he dies, and then the alien DNA just kind of finds its way into, almost like Venom, into another body, and the character is really the alien DNA. It's not the character you thought it was.
Possibly, absolutely. And
you have a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah.
But when you're screwing with technology and these identity transformations, almost like what they do with transgenderism, frankly, some of the, well, I don't even mean it facetiously. People are just changing their identity because they're not comfortable with who they are, and they feel like they're really someone or some. Literally, now we could be something else. Where we're into the inanimate object zone.
Honestly, that may become more real than we expect as we're talking about it here today, Adam, because as they start exploring genetic technology, which they are, and messing around with people's genes, and they're able to change things like eye color and hair color, and who knows what else in the future.
Yeah, flaws
and arm if you want one. It'll become it'll be an interesting future, I think, in another 50 years.
So you can start to think about, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
So that's something to explore for yourself. That could be part of what your statement is
Mhm.
about your story. And then when you listen to Robert McKee's, I really highly recommend, like, just get the audio book for it. You can probably find it online. If not, and if you can't, I bet you I can find a file. I'll
Definitely,
don't
man.
tell anyone else, but I would send it to you.
Of course.
So I find it so useful to me, what I learned from Robert McKee, and there are other sources too, but I just find it so useful. It's a thrill for me to recommend it to someone and just be like, oh, cool, I got to recommend that to somebody else. There's
Man,
someone else to recommend. Professor Geek's YouTube channel, his archetype
okay,
discussions
cool.
on his playlist. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So much information. And it's such
Professor Geek.
yeah, Professor Geek. He's on YouTube. I recommend him highly. I'm writing a book with him now. I just admired his work for a year, and then I was like, I really need someone to write GI Jackrabbits with, and he was the perfect person. It's been such a great and rewarding working relationship. But look at his playlists and look for his archetypes. I mean, he's got a lot of great videos, but it's his
Nice.
archetypes, and he talks about the monomyth, and he comes from a point of view where loves comics. He's a good writer. He is a teacher. He's an actual professor, so he teaches writing. He teaches writing graphic novels also. So he's very good at communicating to interested and like kind of anxious students. So again, I like these people who are actual trained teachers. Actually, my writer Stefan Petruka for College of the Dead is also a teacher. I like these guys that know how to convey, concepts in a, I don't know, just this really nice, coherent, digestible way, and just so
Yeah.
organized that you could just follow it and you could just soak it up like a sponge.
Well, yeah, totally, man. And archetypes, they work so well because they're kind of like a box of variables that people already are familiar with and relate to. So when you center a character around them, it gives you that instant point of connection to draw them into the story. There's just a lot that you can do with that stuff.
Yeah, and also as he explains and does it so wonderfully in references the comic book characters, there's a dynamic between the Fantastic Four. There's a dynamic between the four Ninja Turtles characters that's different from a dynamic with, say, 5 or 6 characters. So when he
Mm,
and I were developing the core group of characters for GI Jackrabbits, which is a comic I did in 1985 as a kid, and then we're redoing it with him now. That was one of
cool.
the first things we talked about, and I was like, I want to have that feeling of the 4 Ninja Turtles, of my 4 core characters, and I want to have also similar to like the Fantastic Four. I showed him what I already had, like my really underdeveloped version of it as a teenager, and he's like, actually, you have these 4 main archetypes, and the fire one, and the this and that, and he's explaining it all. I'm like, really? And like, he's like, yeah, you've got like this good basic stuff we can work with, and then we just started building on top of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, you just get so much out of it. But for me, I love having that reference of, what, I'll just give this guy some money, and he cares about my project too, and it moves
Yeah.
forward, and nothing is bad. It's all just good, good, good.
Yeah. And when you find a good person like that, it's just so great because, especially if you can keep them on board for the next project, because good people are hard to find. Like
Yeah,
some,
they
a
are,
lot of
but you know what?
people.
If you know what you're looking for, honestly, there really are out there. The people, and,
Mhm.
and if his actual name is Michael. If Michael wasn't available to do something with you and you wanted somebody kind of like Michael-ish, there are a couple of other people that I know. I just kind of keep my eye out for talent like that. As a publisher, that's really your job, is to develop teams, retain those people as best as possible. And you don't own anybody, but you try to cultivate and maintain that relationship, make it worthwhile for both people. And then
Yeah.
you could continuously look for more. That's another reason why I want to do sequels. I don't want there to be a day that Stefan, my writer, who's in charge of College of the Dead, I don't want there to be a day that Stefan wants to work that he has downtime. That
Yeah.
would be my ideal. I can't completely control all of that. I'm not going to be, there's a limit to what we can produce and do a good job on. But I look out for that. I'm not like, oh, well, who cares? If Michael needs work or Stefan needs work or something like that, that's their problem. Well, it is their problem, but if I want to cultivate and retain that talent, it's my
Hmm.
problem too. You know,
Yeah.
to actually do the right thing, you could benefit tremendously to just kind of look out for people. And you know, then of course you come around and say, hey, by the way, could you help me with this or that? And they're right on it because you've taken care of them.
Yeah,
Simple,
absolutely,
right?
man. So tell us a little bit about your future plans for College of the Dead, Adam. I
Sure.
mean, so you're doing issue 3. How long is this series going to be, and
Series is
what
never
what's
going to series is never going to stop. Every 6 months there'll be a new book. College of the Dead Book 2 is completely done. We're just finalizing the prep file for testing the printing. But this book will ship in June 2020. And my
nice?
plan right now is to ship College of the Dead Book 3 with that new release in January 2021. And we're just gonna. It's not done yet, but it will be done by the time we're offering. It'll take us a few months to get it done, and we'll have it done, and then we'll offer it probably in August or September, depending when everything comes together, to be shipping in January 2021, and then just continue on that 6 month routine, that discipline. Have to have that discipline. There's a lot of other things going on. There's pandemics, wars. Well, who knows what's going on? You stick to your schedule, you know, and that takes care of everybody in the process. But right after College of the Dead 2 completes, I will the campaign, and we probably will do a 30-day extension. It looks like on it. So then it'll be like roughly May 7th. It completes. We will launch the Mermaids, which is the color Game of Thrones Mermaids world thing that we developed, which is just there's just so much there. It's pretty damned amazing.
That
And then
sounds
a couple months after that, when like 2 months after that launches, we should be more than ready with GI Jackrabbits finally, which will be a masterpiece by then.
yeah,
That first
absolutely.
book, and then just keep them. Every book that's worth doing is worth doing twice a year, and there's no excuse. It just has to get done. It's got to be great, and if you retain talent and everybody likes what we're delivering, you know, it's unlimited opportunity. We can always do more things.
Yeah, big time. So, Adam, with all these comic books that you've done,
Sure.
was Titanium Comics your comic book company where you
Yeah.
partnered with a bunch of people? What's
Triumphant
the story?
Comics. Yeah, Triumphant Comics was my company. I had one publishing partner with it. I did sell the rights to a film and TV company, Platinum Studios. They are the guys that put out actually the Cowboys and Aliens movie.
Oh, cool.
And
We
we
watched
produced
it
on
the other
that.
day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
crazy. What a
it,
coincidence.
it was pretty cool. It was a little too fast paced for me. I think it really like wore me out with that. I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, this is like so fast paced.
Yeah.
And you know, movies are up and down and things like that. You know, it's not. There's no major money to make from, at least in my position. There's no major money to make from anything like that until a movie was actually greenlit and was really getting done. But I happen to be friends with Scott Rosenberg, the guy who had the company, and I was on their board of directors for a year or two, and that was really interesting because they're a small public company, and learned a lot, and met some other really interesting people. Mark Canton, who was the producer of 300, he was on the board with us,
Wow.
and also Batman. He was one of the producers of the original Batman, 1989. So yeah,
Wow.
very interesting people. But the thing of it is you just do great work. I think there's a future for all of our projects for film and TV and things like that in the future. I don't really have any super direct ins. I mean, Scott always says if I want help, he's happy to help, and maybe we work on something together. But it's not any kind of part of my plan to do film and TV with my stuff or really anyone else's. If it happens, it happens. You know, if somebody sees it, they knock on a door, or you know, we find another viable way. It's fine. But I've seen a lot of my friends get distracted by that kind of stuff.
It is a big
And
distraction.
it really is. And it's like, you know what? If you can cultivate, if I have 1,000 people that want to buy College of the Dead every time it comes out, and I'm selling backlist and things like that, that's very successful. You know, it's a great series. It could always be a bigger series. So, you know, the idea in this business is to just, if you love what you do it in a way that you can keep loving what you do. Don't go outside those lines. Keep your priorities straight. And as opportunities come up, then sure, you can always do, more things. We could do more titles. There's so many. Look, now that it just came out today that Diamond Comics Distributors is going to stop distributing new comics as a result of the pandemic and the effects on comic book stores, because they're closed all over the country and really all over the world.
So that they distribute for all the mainstream companies, right?
They distribute for all the mainstreams. Anyone who's getting comics from a comic book store of any comic book publisher is going through Diamond Comics. So it's on bleedingcool.com. I actually did an hour live. Yeah, I did an hour live stream on this today already. And what this means is comic book stores are not going to get new comics for probably at least 6 months. And about 80% of them will probably go out of business. Comics will move to.
Do you remember what the article was?
Yeah, it's the third one down. That the photo of that fella with
this guy.
Yep, that's Steve.
Man,
Steve Jeppy.
That is crazy news. Very
yeah, that's how I felt about it when I first heard about it. I've talked to a few other industry friends too, and our take on it is like, that's, stores were not making money to begin with. It's not like they were successful and like, all right, well, look, we've prepared for this. There's none of that. There's no like, oh, we've prepared for this. No, they haven't. They were dying as it was. But what it does mean is if physical comic books are going to be sold through physical stores in the future, it's going to happen on a returnable basis. It has to be returnable. There's no way, and it should have been a long time ago. There's no way stores can take the financial risk of buying these publications or anything else for them to try to resell them. And now, there's no way that to restart in a few months, these stores can just kind of hang out and pay their rent in the meantime. And even if they could, they're lose all their customer base. So there's no more chance for SJW Comics to be raining themselves on these stores.
They're going to be annihilated during this time, I think. It's
it's terrible. Think about the freelancers. Talk about worrying about people like the artists, who are check to check. And a lot of these companies, especially the smaller ones, get behind on their payments. And then that's why, like, I keep everything very conservative, so that doesn't happen to me. Just you do what you can do, and you control your costs. You don't make promises you can't keep. But a lot of these little publishers, like, I know how tight money has been. Like, having sold to comic stores before, you get into this rut, and it's like you desperately need to constantly keep pushing out more comics, because the money has to come in from this month to pay last month's printing bills and stuff. And it's like that all stops. And then even if everyone was current with all the invoices and you were getting paid from everybody, everything was fine, you can't hire freelancers to do next month's comics when there's no way to distribute them.
No, exactly.
So if you were making an extra $1,000 a month doing freelance comic work, or $3,000 or $5,000, whatever it is, it's not there anymore. And there's no like, well, just snap your fingers and restart it. The only thing that creators can do is crowdfund. And
exactly.
They can do that, and they're going to have to. I don't think that's going to hurt us from Comicsgate, because we send most of our business from our YouTube following and our email customer list to Indiegogo to buy our stuff. So they may get filled with comics, but they're not going to be from our YouTube relationships and things.
Yeah, I'd argue it's probably a good thing, actually, for our particular little piece of the indie industry, because nothing's really changing that much for us. We're still doing what we're doing, even though this whole thing is happening, the pandemic and whatnot.
It's unbelievable, how separate we are from the pandemic. We're so separate from the comic book stores, Diamond. I mean, I know Steve Jeppy. Not like we don't hang out on the weekends, but we know each other professionally. We're friends on Facebook, and we chat from time to time. And to think that there's no there was Diamond Comic Distributors when I got first involved in comics in like 1986 or something, whatever it was. They were around. Maybe it was 90 or something when they first started working there. I don't know. They were so small. They used to buy their comics through a small comic book distributor called Comics Unlimited out of New Jersey. And then eventually they did all the purchasing for other distributors. And then eventually there were no more distributors eventually. But yeah, wow. Diamond has been around, like they've been around, I mean, 30 years, minimum 30 years. And
yeah, this is
crazy.
Why it's so unprecedented in a way. Just the fact that, you know, that they've stopped the printers for the first time in 30 years, like you said. And
presses stopped. Presses have been stopped. So we'll probably see comics come out digitally that were supposed to come out on paper.
Yeah.
And, you know, big companies will continue to put out comics and continue to lose money on them. But as far as retail outlets being able to sell new comics, it hasn't been viable for a long time. And now it's absurdly not viable.
Unfortunately, it'll be very interesting to see what the overall impact on the mainstream industry will be after this. And I've said it before, I don't think comics will die with them. I think they'll just transition over to the independent creators who have kind of they've taken a very proactive approach, I think. People like you, Adam, and people like Ethan, who have cultivated these independent audiences for themselves. They've cut out that middleman that now is getting hit brutally by this, you know, economic downfall. And so we're still direct to the customer, so nothing's changing there, which is I hope we see much more established creators and artists in the mainstream industry come over now and do their own books and give us some
you'll see them stuff. You'll see them sort of try to. I haven't given it much thought. I have to think more. I mean, I do know some of these industry guys. I know some guys who probably would be an asset to Comicsgate. I know Ethan is very careful about who he's going to let on his channel and promote, although he's going to support friends and things like that for sure. But you know, it's you have to really be careful at what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing when you make books like this, and you have to have people who want you to be around you. There are people that publish on Kickstarter, have nothing to do with Comicsgate, and they do just fine on their campaigns, and they fulfill their campaigns, and they don't need anyone else. You don't really need anyone else, but the thing of it is you get to do so much more. And you have so much tremendous support and protection. Like you could live isolated and survive anywhere, you know, but what fun is it if you do it on your own? And the truth of it is, especially in crazy times, it's great to know people have your back. And just as a quick aside, like, do you guys see comics coming back after the downfall, having a renaissance? Should give more towards creator-owned products? Well, I like what Chris was saying too. The answer is yes, Boner Man, of course, and I like your name. Every man should have a boner at different times. Chris Cranham was also saying back to cool comics, big boobs, jack nutcases. Yeah, jack nutcases, huge guns.
Chris knows my style.
Swords. Yeah, that's the coolest stuff. 6-page fight scenes, villains that are actually evil, and OPAF, baby. Yeah, I think we will see more of that. We're going to see accountability. There's no more industry to torture and hold in the corner. They killed the patient. They tortured the patient, and you know, they killed it. So if there were books like people who are waiting on Cyberfrog, if Ethan was like, "Oh my God, I can't ship Cyberfrog. It's going to take 3 more months," people would wait 3 months for it. But there's no one saying, "Oh my God, I want to see Safe Space," you know, or the new Warriors.
Oh
that
no.
No one's saying,
do a video on that.
I gotta see. Yeah, you may as well. People like those videos. They're popular.
Gosh.
But you know, there's no one saying, "Oh, Ironheart. I need to know when Ironheart's going to come out." The female Iron Man character. It's like no one's anxious to get that, so no one's going to wait for it. So already, like Marvel the mainstream comics turned into the sick and dying patient that just got run over by a bus. It's like so it was dying anyway, but they pushed too hard, and this is kind of what they get for it. So will there be I think there will be a renaissance. I don't know if the big companies will just basically say, okay, fine. Then what we'll do is we'll do graphic novels that mirror the continuity spun out of their film properties. That would actually be the most sensible business decision, is to say, okay, stop it with the Tumblr nonsensical separate stuff. We're going to let the film properties, which are canon by definition, because that's the biggie, even Captain Marvel, that is their true canon. That is what the real versions of their properties are. The comics should support those properties. So they should tell stories before, during, and after things that you see in the movie and support continuity of the movie. And they should be produced as graphic novels, independent of floppy comics, saddle stitch comics, independent of any concern for comic stores whatsoever. And they can get them in libraries and schools and bookstores and any other independent stores that are left. But a lot of business has moved away from comic book stores.
Yeah. And that's why it's, now with what's happening, that was really the straw that broke the camel's back in a way, because
for sure.
Sure, if things were going well before now, it would have been a little bit of a timeout and they would have been able to hit back eventually. But it's kind of like, at this point, I mean, why come back after this? Things are already kind of crap anyway.
Well, they don't, that not from their point of view. Their idea was to destroy. This would be effectively a good way to destroy a lot of the industry. But what they didn't want to see happen is they didn't want a thriving independent industry that could then make their own comics and create their own stories and their own narratives. And we've got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris. Yeah.
That's a good point, Chris. Crazy people really infiltrated top ranks of Marvel when they're announcing Safe Space and Snowflake. I mean, just really a complete absurd beyond any kind of parody anybody could ever think of. No one would ever think that anybody could come up with that. It's a total mockery. They're a mockery of themselves. That's not going to be, I mean, maybe they make that as a book and sell some of them in Walmart or something. Who knows?
Man, I doubt it. Even if I doubt they'll get, I'd be surprised if anyone buys that book. Well, I don't think I'd want to meet the person who would buy that book.
Part of you do not want to, but part of those is like selling them in Walmart or selling them to like Scholastic book fairs where they just buy 1 million of them and throw them away, or whatever it is that Scholastic is doing. Yeah. And, just odd library things of like, well, don't you think you should have an inclusive superhero section in your library? Like, of course you should, just on the premise of inclusive superheroes. Like, all right, I guess. So there's like 100,000 copies there. So who knows? But we're going to own comics. That's for sure. We're already the only thing that's really exciting in comics, but we're going to own it.
Totally. I'm so excited as well. Like, man, like I said, even before I knew about Comicsgate, when I saw Cyberfrog, I'm like, yes, this is a comic book that I can get on board with. Like, I hadn't seen anything like that in years. Like, Spawn was probably the last comic book that I was reading, and I eventually fell off of that too. But
that's what Ethan wanted. He wanted to bring the energy and the enthusiasm back.
Yeah.
And I have inspired a lot of people over the last 10 months or so as I've been, working on this stuff. And I'm always shocked, like, really? They're like, yeah, no, man, it's great talking to you. You gave me some good advice. You pointed me to some of the right people. But Ethan inspired me, really, because I was planning on publishing this stuff eventually. I was working on it anyway, but I wasn't fast tracking doing it. And now I'm just like totally engaged in it. So just his energy and his enthusiasm is so infectious. It's, and this is who I am anyway. I'm passionate about this stuff. I really love working with other people. If I can give anyone advice that's useful, I love to do it. And then to see other people succeed, and then help other people succeed under there. It's like, it's really rewarding. And there are a lot of great people in Comicsgate that are supporting other independent creators. And some of the most impressive people are not even on Ethan's side. I like bringing up Carla and her husband who do Grim Reaper, which is it's a small project. It did like $1,795 US with issue 1. They shipped it, and now they're up to like 23 or 2,400. The campaign's not over yet for their second issue of Grim Reaper. And here this is why you know Comicsgate works, is it works for very big successful projects like Ethan's, but it also works for tiny projects and then stuff in the middle. But the fact that it works for tiny projects really tells you how healthy it actually is, how useful. Like talking about that joke about Mike Miller was saying the power of Comicsgate is not, mocking it because I wasn't selling as many books yet as some of the other color series did in our group. For whatever reason, it's like, no, that it really is the power of Comicsgate, that through supporting each other and networking and providing promotional vehicles, we can always, when there's a worthwhile project, we can always get enough of a networking effect to generate a certain amount of revenue for each of those, even the smallest projects, because there are customers that they want to be a part of what we're doing.
Totally, man. I'm one of them. Like, I've bought so many Indiegogo books, and I hadn't been buying comic books for so long, like years and years before that. And I got addicted to it, man. I was running out of money.
Yeah.
And that's why I do want to lend my support and build this thing and, bring something to the table myself when the time is right, because
you bring a project, but also look at what your skill sets are. I have skill sets that are outside of Comicsgate, and I try to employ them for the benefit of everybody in Comicsgate that I communicate with or see my videos. Your how to draw stuff, it's very valuable. Principles of character design and things like that. Those teaching other guys also how to think about their character designs when they're approaching a project, how to think about their settings and things that I just happen to know those, bits and pieces about you. But totally. Also your proportions. I was looking at your site before. You do stuff on proportions.
Thanks, man.
People need that too as a reference. It's going to make their work stronger if they're thinking that way.
Yeah. I mean, it would be amazing for potential people who eventually create their own books, maybe become a part of Comicsgate. It would be cool if they started out with something like how to draw comics, really got their skill set up and mastered their abilities, then put out their own books. Like that whole sequence of events was lined up.
Yeah, we can help people do that. We can help you. You know what? There are a couple of things. Like there's things I'm looking at helping us all with international shipping by combining some of our orders and stuff like that. And I've done research into it, and it's a little complicated with the logistics and stuff like that. But I have, proven vendors and stuff. I just have to determine how much work is it to really execute it, get it all done. And at the moment, I'm trying to do things that I'm not asking for compensation for either. It's just informational stuff. But I have to see how much am I going to have to get administrative support of like 20 hours a week to make sure that we don't make mistakes. But at the same time, maybe we can cut our international shipping by at least 50%. Which would be huge, so that people don't have to pay $20. If people could only pay like $8 or $6 or $7, let's say $7 for me to get a book from the United States to Australia, rather than having to charge someone $20, that would be a game changer for us. And then
that'd be incredible.
Potentially, and that is possible. So I've seen like what it is, and it's possible. It's just more work. I just have to do the work and then communicate with people about like what I'm trying to do and how we're doing it. But there's other things too. Like when you do your book, let's say I'm doing College of the Dead 4. If you and I, because we're sourcing our customer base from Comicsgate, if 80% of, let's say, our customers are the same people, why are we not shipping our books in the same package? That's another whole opportunity. So if we market them separately, but if when we look at it, it happens to be that like 80% of your customers are the same people as mine, there's another way. There's another economy that we can figure out how to pass that. Once we know we can do it consistently, we could be looking at absolutely destroying the cost of international shipping, because then we could split the costs of delivery for something like that. So instead of $7, maybe it's costing $3.50. I mean, maybe we get to the point where it's like we can charge $25 for a 48-page book, but it's free shipping internationally. that is the kind